I'm going to do a file save as and rename it to make the other side of the part. So if I say here and call this the tip, now if we open up the tip part, we can tweak some of these features and make the top half of the blade. So I'm going to close the reference piece that we're using for the bottom, and I'm going to open up the previous tip part. Okay, so here is my previous tip part that I'm going to use for reference. And I'm going to do something similar that I did with the previous part. I'm going to roll this back. So up in this area, let's see, this is where I cut it. So at this point, all there is that hole that goes up into the inside, and then it's cut facing this direction. So I'm going to come back over to the part that I'm working on now. This is the demo blade tip, and if I go up to the operation just ahead of the solidify operation, that puts us in the same place. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of cutting away the tip of the blade, I'm going to cut away the base of the blade. So I'm going to redefine this and change the direction. So now we've got the tip of the blade, and it should look the same as the previous blade. The only difference being that the hole is in a slightly different location. So if we come here, there's our hole. It's back further. Okay, so let's see what we did next on this part. So this axis is the one that goes between here, and that let us put our hole in right spot. So on this part, let's see, that is this axis, and it is this hole here. And on this part, I no longer need this, so I'm going to delete it. We'll delete that feature. There. Okay, and then that hole there goes that way now, which is kind of nice. So we have our solidify, we have our axis, we have our hole. Well, what's this extrusion? Oh, this is the one where we cut through the base, so we don't need that anymore either. We'll delete that. Okay, so let's go back to our reference part and see what we do next. Okay, so you can't see this inside the blade, so I'm going to turn this to a wireframe view. Even then, it's kind of hard. But there are some features on the inside of here. So this extrusion that's right here is where I embed a washer. And then on top of that, this cutout is where the head of the screw that goes into the inside of the carbon fiber spar goes. And then what's next? I think then there is a screw, a hole that goes all the way out to the tip of the blade that I use for putting an Allen wrench down inside to hold this screw. And it also doubles, it has a double function in that I can screw a screw into the end of this hole to balance the blades. So let's put those three features in now into the new blade. And the way that we'll do that is I'm going to check the dimensions of the bottom counter bore. So that's 1 millimeter thick and it's 10 millimeters in diameter. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to change this back to shaded with edges. Actually, let's change it to just shading so we don't have all those edges on there. Okay. So now we're going to extrude and remove material, make the depth 1, and we're going to place it on the bottom of that hole. We're going to spin this around so that we're looking at the bottom, and there is a 10 millimeter circle there. 10 there. All right. So now that should make our counter bore in there. And it should be above that datum plane. It is. Okay, good. Okay, the next one, the dimensions of it are 3.5 and 8.5, and it comes off of that same plane. So this time it was 3.5 and 8.5. I'm gonna do the same thing, extrude 3.5, remove material. We're gonna place it on this plane and do another circle right here, and the diameter was 8.5. That doesn't look right. Let's check that again on the other part. Yeah, it is 8.5. 8.5 and 3.5. What was this one? 10 and 1. Dimension 10 and 1, and this one is dimension 8.5 by 3.5. Okay, it's right. But it's going the wrong direction. So let's fix that. Make this negative. There. Regenerate. Okay. So there's that one. And now let's put in the big long hole that goes out the tip of the blade. That one is 3.75 diameter. So if we come over here and we do another extrusion, we'll make it through all, remove material. The placement is going to be on this datum plane, and it's going to be a circle with a diameter of 3.75. All right. If I spin that around, let's get it going in the right direction. It goes that way. There is our access hole. All right. Now if we go back and if we go down through these features, so there's the washer, there's the counterbore for the fastener, there's the access hole that goes out the top. Let me save this and come over to our reference blade, and it looks like those are all the features that are in the tip. So we should be good to go. I'm going to save that. Now, just to make sure that all of this works properly, I'm going to assemble these new blade pieces into a new blade assembly, just to make sure that they all work properly. So if I see, what do I have open here? Let me close my previous reference part. I'm going to open the hub that I've been using, and that's pitch hub 1. I'm going to turn off these datum planes just for now. Okay, so here is our pitch hub. This is my pitch blade. Okay, so here is the blade assembly, and for layout purposes, hide. that, and we're going to hide this one, and let's assemble in the new ones we just created and make sure everything looks right. So let's assemble in demo blade base, and we're going to align the center hole with the shaft. We're going to mate the base with the base of the cuff, and that distance is going to be coincident. And then we are going to make this face and this face parallel to each other, and we're going to change this to parallel there. So that's where the base goes. And now let's assemble on the tip. Assemble demo tip. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line up the hole and the spar. We're going to mate these two faces together. Aha! So one thing is that this hole is in the wrong spot, so it needs to be up near the tip. We'll fix that in just a second. The next thing we're going to do is add another constraint, and we're going to, let's align some datum planes, or make them parallel anyway. So when I rotate this guy around, there are some datum planes that float with it. It looks like this one should be parallel to that one. Parallel. And then I say OK. So there is our blade. Let's change the view to wireframe view. And it's not, we can't see those holes that are in there. There's the blade tip. It's got its hole back here. This one, oh, and I know what let's do. Let's turn on this section, see if that'll help us. Change this back to shading. Can we see the tip? No. Well, we know we can fix it. So let's come down and open up our base part again and check. This hole dimension was 35 millimeters. Let's go to the tip, and this will make this -35. There we go. Regenerate. Close. Okay. Let's change it back to the wireframe view and make sure that those forward holes line up. Man, it's just so hard to see with those facets, but there's the holes. And they look a little misaligned for some reason. So now I've got to chase that down. We'll see why. We can see if I can figure out why they're misaligned. I think I've figured out why they're misaligned. This hole was positioned on this axis, which was defined by the end, the trailing edge point, and this point, this vertex on the front of the blade. So this is the base. If we switch over and look at the tip, that axis goes through the trailing edge, but at the front edge, it's not going through the right spot. And I think that's because I cut it, when I switched the direction of the cut, it lost that reference. So let's redefine this axis, and the vertex edge in the front, we're going to change that to be right here. I'm going to remove that one and make it that one there. Okay. So now let's see if that fixes our problem. We'll go back to the assembly, which is here. We'll go back to the wireframe view and zoom in on those circles. And did it, okay, it moved that one. It moved that one back to there again. Okay, let's change that to -35. Okay, moved it back up to the front. Regenerate. Back to the assembly. There we go. Now the two holes line up perfectly. If I change this cut to shading there, now it doesn't look so bad. I'm going to hide these datums and turn on the cross section, and we should have a blade now where the spar goes up through the middle, and it stops at just the right spot for the washer to land. Then there is the fastener that sits on top, and then there's a little insert in here that I use when I'm 3D printing. So that looks correct. Just for the fun of it, let's change the colors so that we can see the differences between them. If we go back to our blade, there is our blade. There's our cuff. If we turn off the section view, we can see the whole thing. The leading edge is pointing forward where the gear teeth are. And if we go back to the hub, there is our hub. And it doesn't look like there are any problems. The hub looks good. And now it looks like it's been shifted forward, so now everything is on the CG. So now we can 3D print these things.